All right, let's get right into it. No biography, no long-winded history lesson. This is a technical manual, plain and simple. We're here to tear down the architecture of one of the most iconic guitar tones ever, piece by piece, setting by setting. Let's go.
First thing you gotta understand, this wasn't just random noise. The soft, loud dynamic that defined that sound, it was a deliberate, weaponized formula. The verses pull you in, they're quiet, they're tense, and then the chorus just hits you like a brick wall. That wasn't an accident. That was the entire songwriting philosophy, and the gear was picked specifically to make that happen. So, before we even touch a single knob, we have to understand the theory behind it. What actually makes up this sound? What makes it feel so raw, so radioactive? This is the sonic DNA. The absolute key concept here is analog saturation. Now, this isn't that smooth, predictable distortion you get from a modern high-gain amp. No, this is the sound of a tiny, cheap pedal circuits being totally overloaded. It's being pushed way beyond what it was ever designed to do. It's literally the sound of hardware screaming, and that right there is our foundation.
Okay, so it all boils down to 4 crucial parts. First, you need that high treble bite. It's got to be sharp and aggressive so it can slice through everything else. Next, you scoop out the mid-range, creating this huge, hollowed-out, powerful sound. Then, and this is a big one, the gain is maxed out. The distortion pedal isn't just an effect you kick on, it becomes the amp's voice. And finally, you've got that signature textural chorus, that watery warble. It's not for clean sounds, it's layered right on top of that insane distortion to give it that seasick vibe.
All right, theory's done. Let's move on to the actual gear. These are the essential, non-negotiable tools you absolutely need to build this rig. And listen, the signal path here is everything. It has to go guitar, into the distortion, then into the chorus, and finally into a super clean amp. If you reverse the chorus and distortion, you're going to get a completely different and totally wrong sound. This order is law. It's not a suggestion.
Now, while Kurt played a bunch of different Fenders, the one constant, the absolute top priority, was ripping out that stock bridge pickup and slamming in a high-output humbucker. We're talking something like a Seymour Duncan JB or a D'Amorzio Super Distortion. That pickup is what gives the signal enough muscle to just punish the front of the distortion pedal. Without it, you're not even in the ballpark.
This little orange box, this is the absolute heart of the rig. The entire distorted tone, all the way from Bleach through Nevermind, it all comes from a Boss DS1 or its big brother, the DS2. The amp isn't creating the distortion, it's just a speaker. This pedal right here is the engine. And here's where the texture comes from. The Electro-Harmonix small clone. Its whole job was to take that maxed out, screaming distortion signal and just make it sound weird, seasick. It's that watery sound you hear on the Come As You Are intro. And remember what I said, it always came after the distortion. Okay, now for the part I know you've been waiting for. We're talking exact numbers, no more guessing. This is the blueprint for replicating that sound with the real hardware. So get ready to dial it in.
Now, it's important to know there was a quick evolution. The Nevermind sound was pure Boss DS1 aggression. But for In Utero, things got a bit darker and thicker. The core tone shifted to a Tech 21 Sansamp. The DS2 was still on the board, but that Sansamp became the main voice for that album's heavier grind. Today, though, we're focusing on that iconic Nevermind blueprint.
This is your starting point for pretty much any clean amp you've got. Set your bass to 4. Now, the mids, you gotta scoop them, so set those down to 3, and then push your treble all the way up to 7 for that aggressive bite. Your amp's gain? Turn it off, or keep it super low. The amp is just there to make things loud and clear. Okay, here are the settings for the Boss DS2, and these are non-negotiable. Level, all the way up, 5 o'clock. Distortion, all the way up, 5 o'clock. The only knob you really play with is the tone. Set it around 11 o'clock to keep it sharp but not fizzy. And critically, that little mode switch needs to be on I, the non-turbo setting. That's what mimics the original DS1 circuit. For the small clone, the setup is dead simple, but it's crucial. Set that rate knob to about noon. That's your starting point for the speed of the warble. But the depth switch must be in the up position. That's the max setting. In fact, his techs would sometimes hardwire it in place just to make sure it couldn't be bumped. It's an all-or-nothing effect. And this quote just sums up the whole philosophy, doesn't it? It was never about expensive, fancy boutique gear. It was about taking cheap, off-the-shelf tools and just pushing them to their absolute breaking point. The aggression in how you play is just as important as the settings themselves. So, what if you don't have all the original analog gear? Hey, no problem at all. This blueprint is totally translatable. Let's look at how you can build this exact rig inside a modern multi-effects unit, or, some software on your computer. And here is your cheat sheet for the digital world. It's actually really straightforward. First, find a clean Fender twin amp model. For the distortion, look for anything called DS or turbo and just max out the gain and level, with the tone set to about 40%. Then, apply that same EQ curve we talked about, bass at 4, mids at 3, treble at 7. And finally, add an analog chorus effect, set the depth to high and the rate to about 50%.
Boom.
And I'm going to say this one last time because it is that important, even in a digital rig. The order is everything. You have to drag your chorus block so it comes after your distortion block. If you put it before, you're just going to get a thin, shimmery sound, not that thick, gooey, warbling texture we're hunting for. This one step is the most common mistake people make. Don't be that person. So, there you have it, the complete blueprint, the DNA, the hardware, and the exact settings to build this sound from the ground up, analog or digital. The only question now is, what rig should we dismantle next? Let us know in the comments. We're listening.